studios of Adaba 8.9 FM. Good afternoon and welcome to this week's edition of TheRoundTable. My name is Dimeji Daniels, and the 2023 presidential election is not until 23rd of February 2023, but already the usual attendant politicking and dynamics are already emerging. So today on the program we'll be talking about this. This is the talking point on today's edition of the Roundtable, and I've been joined by one-time Public Secretary of the PDP in Ondo State, Mr. Zado Agito. You're welcome on the program.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
I also have with me in the studio Mr. Tosin Jagere. You're welcome on the program. He's an ICT expert.
Thank you.
And Comrade Ghani Mohammed, Senior Special Assistant to the Governor of Ondo State on social media. You're welcome on the program.
Good afternoon, Dimeji.
Mr. Rotimi Ogule, Chartered Accountant and Social Commentator. You're welcome on the program.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Mr. Dimeji.
Let's start from the PDP. If you'll be following development within the PDP, it appears that the two people who are doing the most at the moment when it comes to trying to rebrand the PDP, make the PDP look good. You talk about Kola Olobode, who is the National Public Secretary. Wike is also doing a lot, going to other states and talking. I remember there was a particular interview where he said that the hope of this country depends on the PDP. And it seems that part of their strategy is to make the APC appear bad, to portray the APC as having failed in this, the three things I promised, that is to reject the economy, to fight corruption, and of course to maintain security in the country. So, Mr. Zado, do you think that this strategy by the PDP is working in its favor?
First and foremost is it's not a strategy to make it seem as if the APC has not worked. The truth of the matter, which every citizen knows, is that we are worse off than when we started with the APC. You mentioned the three cardinal points. On security, are we better secured? It seems as if we have moved the insecurity from one region to the other and spread it across the nation. On the economy, at the moment, whatever we were worth in 2015, we are probably worth less than that, even with the fact that, let's even assume that we have not added anything, which means that the value of our entire net worth as a people, individually and collectively, has been reduced. And on the issue, the third one you mentioned,
fighting corruption?
Fighting corruption. Corruption is now a national culture with the APC. Because look, for instance, our debt profile has been jumping so much that it is at a point now where you will be wondering that will we ever be able to come to a point where we will repay all this debt again. Monies are being borrowed, funds are being raised in the nation, but you are finding very little projects being done. Our overhead is increasing. People are not necessarily being added in huge numbers to the workforce of the country, but then we are still borrowing so much to finance. As at the moment, don't forget, unprecedented. It has never happened. I don't know whether it has happened in the 50-something years or almost 60 years of our independence, where we have to sell national assets to fund the budget for a year. After we sold those national assets, where are we going to get money to fund the succeeding year? So I think that what the PDP is saying is just that it is giving voice to the thoughts and opinions of the general majority of Nigerian citizens.
Comrade Ghani Mohammed, preparatory to the 2015 election, the APC did the same, where we had Lai Mohammed coming up with press statements and interviews, maligning and lampooning the PDP. The PDP is doing the same thing with Kola Olobode and Wike now. Do you think that preparatory to the 2023 election, that it is working, it is getting the PDP the needed goodwill that it seeks to get?
Yeah, Dimeji, it's unfortunate that PDP is laboring in vain in this sense. I don't see PDP new rhetorics or the campaign against APC or whatever form. I'm not speaking as an APC person, I'm speaking as a Nigerian.
As a Nigerian, okay.
Ordinary people no longer trust politicians, irrespective of the toga you bring to them, either PDP, PDM, GC, WAEC, or whatever nomenclature you choose to parade. They don't trust politicians again. That is the truth. Any politician who is still raving in that realm that I will tell them story. We are students of social history of Nigeria. We know PDP was there since 1999 till maybe 2015. Nigerians complain, and the complaints of Nigerians were valid, and the same complaints continue
until now.
Yeah, that is the truth. The fact is this: people on the street see politicians now as the enemy, as the problem. Sarok mentioned now that he saw, a lot of borrowing and the rest of it and the rest of that. Why not holding brief for President Buhari on that strength? But we must appreciate one fact. The world is going through economic crisis, irrespective of the managerial scale or antecedent. In the United States, where everybody looks up to for the best of this, best of that, they are having their own issues. And you know, our economy depends on foreign economies. We are a consuming nation. When there is a hiccup,
we have a lot to discuss.
Okay, when there is a hiccup out there, let me quickly round it up. When you have a hiccup in those economies that we depend on, you are definitely to have it in this country. Economies across the world.
So you think the PDP is not doing well? That the PDP is not really getting it right?
They don't,
strategy-wise.
They don't trust PDP. Like they don't trust APC any longer.
Okay. Now let me quickly ask you this before I move to another person.
All right.
Now, to many average Nigerians, they will say that that it's too early to talk about 2023, but the politicians know that 2020 is not too early to even plan strategize for 2023. Do you think that an average Nigerian on the street understands that the serious politicking is ongoing now for 2023?
If you ask me personally, I will say it's too early because 2023 appears not to be the immediate problem of average Nigerians. Nigerians are faced with too much
Do you
challenges.
think politicians see it that way?
Politicians don't see it that way.
That's my question.
They don't. But for me, I think we should look at the problems of Nigerians first.
Are politicians looking at the problems of Nigeria?
They are expected to look at it. But anybody running around now...
Or they pretend to look at it?
At least, anybody running around now for 2023...
Still talking about the PDP, a member of the PDP Board of Trustees, that is Alhaji Adamu Maina Waziri, said that in a recent interview, said that the PDP is going to zone its ticket, 2023 presidential ticket, to the north. And if you look at the PDP, it appears that seems to be the dominant thinking within the PDP, that if the APC comes out, they are going to zone their ticket to the north. How effective do you think this move is going to be, Mr. Ritmegule?
Thank you very much. I think our country is very unfortunate. We're in a very serious political and economic problem. People don't see it. When we got back to the lane of democracy in 1999, one of the things that gave confidence to all the regions in Nigeria was the implied clause of rotational presidency.
That's good. It's going to go around.
Yes, it generated a kind of political, interest. It brought all the political gladiators together in a unified basket. You could recollect that all that contested against that zoning arrangement, implied zoning arrangement, never got the support of the political class in Nigeria. In fact, it got to a point in PDP, some people that were contesting from the north were banned from contesting. They were told point blank that you can't contest. This is the turn of the south. Whosoever that the south brings becomes the president. So Obasanjo won the primary and he won the election. So later again in PDP, they zoned the ticket to the north. Yeah. And the north, they contested, they had their candidate. So it was seamless. That was the reason why democratic experience could sustain this far. That was the reason you don't have this external exasperated fierce contest that normally truncate our democracy. The moment the PDP appeared to have trusted a very long dagger into the heart of that
arrangement.
Clause. Yes.
When it came with Jonathan.
The party became so disorganized, it went into a kind of disarray. And because they killed the zoning arrangement within that family, the very basic that brought them together, that party went astray. Now the APC is there. The APC is, if you look at Article 20, Section 4 of the APC Constitution, it actually stipulated that the party, the National Working Committee, subject to the approval of NEC, will determine the mode and the arrangement through which they pick their candidate, subject to federal character and all what have you, that they should put that into consideration. If you look at the technical interpretation of that, and then later, it stipulates that they also are thinking of this zoning of a thing, so that there could be cohesiveness. But look at it this way. PDP now is going to technically zone his ticket based on what can give him victory, not on the basis
of what APC does.
Yes. Yes. Now, APC now will be thinking that, okay, if PDP is flying the kite of what will make them win, then can we now completely jettison the area that has the largest population,
which is enough,
yes,
the largest voting population,
just to satisfy the essence of unity of our nation and to give more strength and sinew to our democratic experience. So they are going to be torn between winning an election and sacrificing for the nation. And if we ask an average politician, he believes that you must first of all win election because you can sacrifice the system. And in any case, most electorates in Nigeria, even when you sacrifice, even when you do anything, they seem to care less, because the dynamics that shape our election, there are so many. Like Comrade Gani wanted to go somewhere the other time, when my good friend there, Sadok, we politicians, when we want to talk, we want to curry political advantage, we use big words to describe issues and talk as if we don't understand the real issue. The truth of the matter is that world economy is in disarray now. Last year and this year, we are badly hit because we don't prepare for the fact that we have spent about 20 years or 24 years of our democratic experience electing presidents and governors. We have never run an economy like people who are serious, who want to deliver our nation from the shackles of poverty. We're all guilty of that. So even if you bring anybody on board now, there is no way such, and I doubt it. I don't know where there is correlation between corruption and national debt. I still cannot understand that. You speak better grammar, and you have the sophistry of language. Maybe you will try to explain that to me, but I don't see connection between the two. The truth is, if your budget, you cannot finance it, you cannot generate enough revenue to finance the budget. The next thing for you to look at is debt. You have to borrow. But the technicalities of borrowing, it could be explained in the project and some other thing that the borrowing are tied to. So we should discuss. Yes, we should be. See, if we continue to hang on the boat of politics, we will destroy this country, we will destroy the fabrics of unity.
Okay, let me turn to Mr. Jagere. You listen to Mr. Ogule that whatever the PDP does in 2023 regarding this presidential ticket is going to be in a way, based on what the APC does in 2023. The PDP seems to be thinking that it is likely that the APC will zone its ticket to the south and that they will go to the north because they not as the largest voting population. But how possible do you think it would be for the PDP to zone its ticket to the north based on the different inclinations, political inclinations within the PDP?
Okay, thank you very much. The first thing I wanted to look at, which is very important, is when we're talking about zoning, there is no zoning as far as Nigeria is concerned, but there is zoning within the individual party. Now, when PDP talks about zoning, PDP will see zoning from the perspective that the last president is a PDP man. It's from the south. So ordinarily, if PDP want to follow their own zoning arrangements, it should go to the north. Now, APC wants to do zoning. The present president is from the north. So ordinarily, if they want to zone, it will go to the south. So you cannot compare the decision that APC is making and juxtapose it with what PDP is making to say somebody is reacting to something. It's simply
the two political party zoning based on their circumstance, which is different. The last person who was PDP president is from the south.
So you're saying if the PDP decides to go to the north, it will not be because it believes it could win election over the APC. Should the APC pick somebody from the south?
That's a different discussion. But the basic discussion
is that not what is driving that move?
No, it could not. It may not be.
I think there's an error which I will correct.
Okay.
It may not be. First, I may decide, if PDP decide to pick a candidate from the north, PDP will conveniently hide under the fact that yes, we are still zoning because the last president, who is a PDP man, is from the south. So ordinarily, if you want to zone and want to be fair, we should give the north the opportunity. Now, if that is the truth or is a lie, that's a different thing entirely. Now, APC also, if APC want to be sincere and they want to be objective, the candidate will be picked.
It seems complicated.
Yeah, but now, if you don't want to, let's look at the political correctness.
We don't think like that.
Let's look at the political correctness.
Okay.
The political correctness for everyone who will win election in 2023. Now, that's talking as a politician.
That you are.
Is that you need to pick your candidate from the north. You know why? Because the northern region of Nigeria is not ready to let go of power now. So if anybody picks their candidate from the south, the northern region will do exactly what they did to Jonathan. They will move and shift their attention to whoever picks the candidate from the north. However, my friend on my left said something which is very important. Politicians are no longer trusted. And an average politician is not taking into cognizance that we have lied to these people for so long, and these guys may just have a mind of their own. May just decide in 2023 not to go with the political calculations of the politicians. Because my friend here said something when he was speaking. He said the issues that determined the 2015 election was corruption and security. That was the basic issue that determined where and how Nigeria behaved during that election. But
and it's when Buhari a messiah.
Yes, but today security is worse, corruption is still there, and we have added another one. The issue of unity. The unity of Nigeria is now presently being threatened.
That's a fact.
So the issues that will determine the 2023 election will actually not be the political calculations of this present crop of politicians, but will be who can answer these three questions. The unity of Nigeria that is being threatened, security of Nigeria that is worse than when we took our decision in 2015. So APC will not, I don't know what APC will tell the people that will make the people to believe that what you could not do for 8 years, you now want to do it now. And I don't know what PDP will also tell the people that will make them to believe that we sacked you because you are not able to do these two things, that you now want to come. So it's a lot of dynamics that our politicians should look at, and if you are bringing anybody out,
because I need to answer to certain things. Number one is that the assumption that the PDP has zoned is an assumption. The PDP has not come up with a position.
Nobody has said that. Nobody has said that.
So, but on the decision of where the political party, the PDP, will choose, let us not isolate the fact that who was our last president as a PDP was from the south. The issue is that every 4 years there is a choice of who becomes president of the country, and for every one of this cycle, it had been zoned once to the north, and then now it is supposed to go back to the south.
But in 2019, Atiku in Northern was the candidate of the PDP. Let me
explain what happened. In 2019, for instance, Atiku a Northerner, because the power in the country was expected to go to the north. and it was already domiciled in the north in President Buhari. Anybody contesting against it, you know, there's a cycle of 4 years. There's also the cycle of 2 terms, which is constitutionally guaranteed. Most Nigerians expect that every time power shifts from one region to the other, that constitutional guarantee of 2 terms must give the president an opportunity to recontest. And when the North got power in 2015, it also had an opportunity to recontest in 2019. That was why the PDP also picked its candidate from the North, because it was the right of the North to have their statutorily, constitutionally guaranteed opportunity for a second term. That second term has been concluded.
So the second term is not guaranteed to the North.
For the North.
It's guaranteed to a candidate.
Yeah,
not
yes,
to the
not
North.
to the North. No.
Constitutionally, it's guaranteed to
yes, to the candidate. To
not
the
the North.
Don't forget that the candidate you are guaranteeing it to is already holding power on for that particular region.
No, for himself. That's what the Constitution says. He wants power for himself as a citizen.
No. We are talking the politics of it. The fact is that the reason why Buhari came in 2015 was because it was expected that the South had completed the cycle. The South had President Olusegun Obasanjo for 8 years.
And Jonathan,
the president
for 6 years.
Yeah, and the power moved back to the North in Yar'Adua. Unfortunately, he passed on before completing his first term. That was where crisis initially was generated, because you now had a new sitting president who was not voted for, but who had to fill that position. After he completed Yar'Adua's first term,
he had to do his own.
He now sought to do his own, which technically the North at that time also canvassed that this ticket is their ticket, that they should be allowed to complete their.
And Jonathan promised that he was going to do one time.
If you go by that calculation,
in which case,
if you go by this calculation,
let's move on.
Let me just point out.
Let's move on because of our time.
Let me point out something. If you go by this calculation, Obasanjo did 8 years.
8 years.
Jonathan did 6 years.
6 years.
8 plus 6 is what?
That's 14.
It's 14.
Yes.
Yar'Adua did how many years? 2.
Plus.
Buhari is doing 8 years.
Yes, that's 10.
That's 10. So the North, in their own arguments, says they still have a deficit of 4 years.
Okay, let's move on. Because of our time.
Okay.
As you have said, that there appears to be a lot of distrust within the PDP and the APC. There are also many in the South who do not believe that the North would want to let go of power in 2023. And when you listen to statements from some Northerners, there was a time that Buhari's nephew, Mama Daura, granted an interview to BBC Hausa where he said that now that we have tried zoning or rotation, that Nigeria should now elect its next president but based on competence and merit. When people listen to statements like this, they feel that Northerners are trying to test the waters, and that is the general thinking in the North.
It is expected. You
Yes.
said that.
And then recently, the Ekiti State governor and who is also the chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum granted an interview to a TV station where he said, okay, let's listen to that interview. Carl Define, that's the Ekiti State governor.
Those who know me will tell you that I am not an advocate of zoning in political realm. I understand why those who feel marginalized would want that to happen. I also understand that in a country that is multicultural, that is multi-religious, multi-ethnic, one of the equilibrating mechanisms is to ensure that those in leadership represent the mosaic that the country is. So that for me is not something to be confused about. And I'm also very strongly of the view that excellent Nigerians come from all parts of Nigeria, and there is no place where you're looking for qualified, purpose-driven leaders that you would not find. So I was in charge of the party primaries in APC in 2014, if you remember. And in that party primary, there were candidates from North and candidates from South who contested. and eventually candidate Muhammadu Buhari carried the day. So there's no reason why we are not going to find candidates from all parts of Nigeria when we get to that stage in 2023. Both Babatunde Raji Fashola and Nasir Rufai are very good friends of mine. We all served in the strategic committee of the APC, leading to that period that you have spoken about. You don't expect me to contradict what I know to be correct in what they're saying. So that's not something to be contradicted.
Okay, that was the State Governor Khalid Fahimi. In the last part of the interview, what he was referring to, he was asked, Babatunde Fashola granted an interview where he said that people within the APC should honor the zoning arrangement, and Rufai confirmed that there was a gentleman agreement within the APC. So Rufai also confirmed that, but he said he's not an advocate of zoning. When you listen to statements like that, what can you glean from the thought of some of these power players?
Yeah, you see, politicians, either you have ambition or you don't have ambition. I mean, when I say you don't have, it's still mask. You will tend to speak to favor what will support or advance that as
your cause.
Yeah, at all time. But one thing you must know, anybody who is into politics in Nigeria will appreciate that we rotate, even at the state level. Even at the federal constituency or senatorial, we rotate. People will always come. People will always aspire. During the primaries that produced Obasanjo in 1998 through 1999, Abubakar Rimi contested when it was a sing-song or a settled position or political agreement that the presidency must come from the southwest. Even the power equation pointed to southwest. Abubakar Rimi contested against Olusegun Obasanjo at the primaries. He was causing like a sailor when he lost the primary. He knew he would lose. That is it. You must sown. If you don't sown, you will meet the electorate on the field. But I want to emphasize one thing. Call it corruption, call it corruption, call it what's the other leg of it? The three things that
corruption, insecurity,
and
economy.
Yeah, forget about economy. Forget about corruption. The issue that would determine 2023 election is going to be security, and they are going to hang it on the unity of the corporate existence of Nigeria. Except we are denying the truth and the fact that is on the table is on the table. Everybody sees it. Except we are pretending. Every ethnic group now today in Nigeria wants to be alone. The political leaders are still the last string holding us together. Political leaders are the last string holding us together. Look at the experience in the Southwest. You see a personality that is becoming a rally point. Look at Southeast. Look at the personality becoming a rally point for the people there. Is the Nigeria is at the brink. I want to say this for emphasis, for whoever is listening to us at home. Nigeria is at the brink. Security issue is serious. It's confronting everybody. I listened to the interview of Alhaji Dr. Gumi recently. He said the Fulanis were disenchanted with Nigeria. That is what brought the issue of a banditry. And he said if it was not well managed, it would become insurgents, or he was even calling them insurgents. That he saw insurgency coming. That is for Fulanis. You come to Middle Belt, you see the way, you listen to the way Governor Benue State spoke at the press conference. I called a friend, I think I spoke with Ogule. I said, this man he was emotionally carried away that he forgot that he's a governor.
Yeah.
And that was the pain. And you listen to people like Wole Soyinka about 2 days ago. You heard what he said about Nigeria. And that is the sing song across the land. It's going to be fundamental. Our people in diaspora, you see the song, they sing.
Okay, because of our time, let's talk about the APC now. Let's look at some of the major events that happened within the APC, from the removal of Oshiomhole to the installation of the caretaker committee, the one led by the governor of Yobe State, and the ongoing membership registration and revalidation in the APC. There are those who say that all these power games geared towards 2023, and more will unfold as the days go by. Mr. Tosi Jegede, do you agree?
I think APC is on the verge of explosion.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was listening to an interview granted by Tony Momo on NTA yesterday, and he said, he was
Tony Momo.
He was chairman CPC when CPC and ACN and the other party merged. He said the agreement was for ACN to hold on to the party structure, while CPC gets the presidency. That was the gentleman agreement that they had when they were discussing the merger. Now, ACN seems to have lost
the party structure and the presidency.
That was the only thing they were holding on to. Now, the ACN factor, the CPC factor, and the other factors, everybody is gunning for the soul of the party. And that's why you see some factions saying that the revalidation of membership is wrong. Some factions says we need to revalidate because we must get your hand off the party. And these guys want to ensure that their hands remains in the party. So if after this convention of APC, if APC remains the same,
they will be on the ballot in 2023.
I will be, if APC remain the same and they remain together on the ballot and they survive, it's actually going to be the political miracle of the century.
In fact, if you look at some of these, some states, for instance, in Benue State, a ward chairman in the APC was killed. In Kwara State, there is a video that is trending where APC members were throwing chairs at one another. Let me ask Mr. Rotimi Ogbele before I come to you, Mr. Zadok. What do you think the power brokers in your party, the APC, hope to achieve with this revalidation and registration of members that they are pushed for? Or maybe before you answer, let's listen to Bisi Akonde, is the pioneer chairman of the party.
Normal circumstances, a caretaker executive committee for a political party is an abnormality. If not carefully controlled and expeditiously managed, most aberrant authorities end up in contempt and disgrace. For this reason, I want to urge the present APC Caretaker Executive Committee to resist all temptations of C-type syndromes that usually characterize most hand-picked authorities in most undeveloped countries of the world. The second is to say that no population census is repeated within less than a decade of, and that voters are not registered at every election. Within this context, I see the present APC membership registration within less than a decade after the original register as an indefensible aberration, leading to certain ugly perceptions. The second major perception is that APC leadership might be wasteful and unappreciative of the proper use of money in a kind of scanty economy in which Nigeria now finds itself.
Well, that was Chief Bisi Akonde, the pioneer chairman of the APC, giving his thoughts on the ongoing revalidation and registration of members going on within the APC. Mr. Rotimi Ogle, my question.
Yeah.
What do you think those who push for this hope to achieve by it?
Thank you very much.
A lot of insinuations.
Yes, unfortunately, I am not in their minds, but one can...
It is your party.
Yes, it is. One can reasonably and carefully too look at what could be the reason, the adduced reason and the unmentioned reasons. The first reason they said was that the party is conscious of the way its candidates emerge, and that in a democratic setting, there is need for you to make the primary election of your party so tight in terms of organization that the influence of money will be almost removed.
You think that is what is being done now?
As I said, from the reason adduced.
Okay.
If you
what do you think? Let's move from the reasons.
What
do you think?
What I think is this.
What do you think?
If you have a sizable number of people who is going to conduct, who is going to serve as delegate to elect a candidate for a party, you open that process to the influence of money. If you have, like, let's say 15,000 delegates that will choose a candidate for a party, you have, to a very reasonable extent, reduced the influence of money.
In trying to reduce the influence of money, what do you think they hope to achieve?
What they hope to achieve is to bring democracy to the units, to the real people in the party who may belong to the class of people that are vulnerable in the society. They may look at, okay, this person will be better if we elect him as a candidate. If he wins the election, he will take care of our interests. He will look at the interests of the downtrodden. They may be thinking in that direction. You would agree with me, either PDP or APC or any political party in Nigeria, the way our primary elections are structured, they are open to the influence of money greatly, and that is dangerous to the trend of democracy.
Let me ask you, Bisi Akonde mentioned that the APC Catholic Committee is an aberration. If you look at the constitution of your party, the APC constitution, Article 17(4), it states that no officer in any organ of the party shall hold executive position office in government concurrently, which is what Boni is doing at the moment.
You cannot readily pronounce.
I want to hear his answer.
You cannot readily make pronouncements the way you are just doing.
But that's what you disagree with the constitution of your party.
It's not.
I just quoted.
That's what the constitution says.
Wait now.
Please go ahead.
The portion that you just read.
Yes.
Will be holding executive position in government concurrently.
Same as the party position.
Wait now, wait. What
that section of your constitution states that you cannot hold party position and at the same time hold executive position in government.
Now the question.
Boni is executive governor of Yobe State.
Wait now.
He's also the Catholic chairman of your party.
Let me talk. The question I'm asking.
And that's why Ita Jagede is saying that Boni was wrong. That's why Ita Jagede said Boni was wrong to sign the nomination of Akeredolu.
Are you asking me a question or you are answering the question?
I'm just asking you.
Okay, the question you have answered is
yes.
You read the portion of our
constitution. Cannot answer.
Yes, okay. Now the question. Let me just put it this way.
Okay.
What does it mean to say somebody is a caretaker chairman of a party? If your party gives you an assignment and the National Executive Committee of that party said that, okay, we are giving you this assignment to execute on behalf of the party, does that confer on that person holding that particular office.
Let me go.
That assumes.
Oh, no, wait now.
I think it is important that I also come in.
Just a moment, let me ask you.
The party came in an assignment.
The position. Just a moment.
He's not holding that office.
Just a moment.
Chairman.
Mr. Rosio Glenn, the position held by Buni in your party as the caretaker chairman of your party at the moment.
Yes.
Does he have executive powers?
Let me respond.
On behalf of your party?
Let me respond.
Does he make decisions? Does he make decisions on behalf of your party?
Wait. His decisions, his decision. His decision are subjected to the approval of NEC of the party.
And the NEC exists outside the constitution.
No, the NEC does not exist.
And so if the constitution is very clear.
Who is the chairman of the NEC of a political party? Who is the chairman of NEC of
what I am saying?
I'm asking you. Who is the chairman of NEC of ACT?
I don't need to answer.
Just a moment. You want to say something?
Yeah.
Set aside the constitution.
Yeah. I will simply advise that we drop this question.
Okay.
Simply because we are the tribunal in Ondo State, and the same question is before a competent court, a tribunal, and discussing it here is not okay.
We are members of the public. We are not a case to that matter.
No, we are members of that party.
Moving on.
We are members of that party.
Moving on. Let's quickly leave that. Moving on.
You are not a participant of this program, please.
Moving on. As some will argue, do you think that people like Tinubu and Bisi Akande in the APC have lost the levels of power, or there's still that balance of power within the APC?
APC.
Yeah, I'm talking about APC now.
And the question again?
I said, as some would argue, in your party, do you think people like Tinubu and Bisi Akande have lost the levels of power, or there's still the balance of power within your party?
They are not supposed to exercise power. Tinubu, they are not supposed to exercise power. They don't belong to the party structure. They are leaders of the party to be respected. But they don't belong to party structure, so they cannot exercise power. But they should be respected because they are party leaders. They are at advisory level,
and their opinion should be heard.
Yes, and should be respected, but not the law. And they cannot exercise power, except I want to understand the power
to be different
from the general.
You want to say something, Zadok?
Yes, I think that one key issue that causes disaffection in all political parties and between the governed and the governed is the principle of justice. What is just and fair? If we come together to win an election and we all agree that a particular individual cannot win an election except we all come together based on certain laws or based on certain principles and agreements, it will become unfair within the process of that agreement for any part of that agreement to seek to change the balance of power that was agreed upon at the beginning, which is where the position of revalidation at this time, definitely for the disagreement of the former Osun State governor, shows you that there is an injustice seeking to be done under this president within the APC. That said, when it comes back to the issue of the Nigerian entity, you spoke earlier, I think Mr. Jagere spoke earlier about the issue of Fulanis being disenfranchised. Okay, it was Gani Mohammed. The reason why everybody is complaining is because of the injustices within the Nigerian system. And these injustices didn't start 6 years ago or didn't start in 2015. They started far, far earlier than that. But within the last 5 years, they have been deeply underscored. They have been almost made a national policy of those who govern us, that injustice is allowed for the sake of whether political correctness, ethnic acceptance, or whatever. What we must come back to when we're talking about the issue of power rotation is that it is agreed that power must move from one region to the other so as to create a sense of belonging to all components of Nigeria. Power is supposed to come back to the south. Within the south, you have 3 geopolitical zones: the southwest, the south-south, and the southeast. In the north, you have the northwest, north central, and the northeast. Now, power has moved. When power goes to the north, political players agree that this region should be the one allowed to run power at this time. If it comes to the southern part, why shouldn't there be an agreement? If the principle upon which we have created that we are going to have we are going to have justice, why doesn't it go to the northeast to the southeast, for instance? Why don't we allow that? The southwest has done its own. The south has done. Why not the southeast? But because of the fact that there is an unspoken rule about ensuring that injustice is allowed in the country, people are not going to talk about the southeast. People are not going to say, no political party will say, let's give to the southeast. And the simple reason is also because of the injustice from the beginning.
Okay.
The North has a huge representation.
Because of our time.
That is not fair for
because of our time, before we go, Mr. Tosin Jagede, where do you see President Muhammadu Buhari in all of these calculations preparing to 2023?
Well, I don't see President Buhari. I'm not sure he's involved in anything. I think he's simply involved in becoming. He's saying and retaining himself as the president of Nigeria. He's not involved in the security of the nation. He's not involved. You can't see him anywhere near the economy. You can't see him in even the politics that is playing within his own family. You can't see him anywhere. Let's
not talk family.
Within his family.
Maybe the family. That's what I mean. Within his political family.
Which is the APC.
Yeah, the APC. That's what I mean. I mean within the political family, which is the party. Because if he was involved, the truth of the matter is that at the level of Baba Konde, you don't expect him to come public.
Yeah.
If the president
say what he said.
If the president was reachable, if they could get across to him. And that's what I've noticed over time. Even during the last 2019 election, you see that state that has crisis within the party, there was no father figure.
Absolutely.
There was no leadership. The crisis was allowed to fester until it probably cost the party some victories, or until people goes to court and the party has to lose their seats. There was not that controlling father figure, and I think that's exactly what Nigeria has lacked in the last 6 years. There's no controlling father figure. It's like when a father is absent in a family.
Who is willing to be just and fair?
When a father is absent in a family, then you see the mother making her own rule. You see the first child deciding to say, I'm in charge. And you see everybody in the house deciding to say, I'm in charge. And that's exactly what we have seen. Even within the party, within the APC, you see that almost everybody is taking ownership of the party.
There are so many power
plays, so many power blocks. And there is no father figure that can say, all of you come round the table, this is how we want it done, and this is how we're going to do it. And I think that's why I have fear for 2023. Because in 2023, it seems that it's only when the president is interested in his position personally that he gets involved, that he steps in. When he's not personally involved, he simply allow everybody. And when the moment in politics you allow everybody to play as the actor, there will be crisis. Yeah. And if there is crisis in APC, it's actually going to affect the entire nation. So it's important that everybody must be interested. But like I said, one thing the Nigerian politicians are not looking at is that factor of the people who has the votes. They may decide to say APC, PDP we just don't want you. They may just decide to go and put their vote somewhere else if they are not properly managed.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Rotimi Obele, for coming on to this edition of the Roundtable. Comrade Gani Mohammed, thank you very much. Mr. Tosin Jagede, thank you very much. And Mr. Zadok Akitoye, thank you very much for coming.
It's always a pleasure.
My name is Dimeji Daniels, and this is where we draw the curtain to this edition of the Roundtable. Good afternoon, and thanks for listening.